Alright, welcome back. So, as I said in the last video, while I wait for my pistons to come in, I'm going to be prepping the rocker box covers. So, these covers, I'm going to polish up, so I'm going to go with the polished covers on the bottom, the black cylinders and the black heads, and then the polished rocker box on top. I think that's going to be a nice little color combo, but polishing it is a whole nother story. So I did polish when I did the cam cover chop, and I realized I kind of glossed over. I didn't really explain anything I was doing, so I kind of wanted to go back and talk about it. So with these, what you're basically doing is you're going to sand it till the finish is better. So in this case, the aluminum is pitted from time and neglect. So we are going to sand it down using 600 grit to prep it, to prep the surface, to make sure the surface is free of defects that the 600 could take out. And then from the 600, we're going to go to 800, and the 800 is basically, we're not taking any surface defects out anymore. We're only going to be removing the scratches that the 600 grit put in. And that's kind of how we're going to keep going. So we're going to go 600, 800, 1000, 1500, and this time we're going to go to 2000. Someone pointed out in my last video that I didn't go to a fine enough grit to really get a nice finish out of it, and they're absolutely right. So this time I'm going down to the 2000, and then after that we hit it with some polish. Fortunately, I still don't have a bench polisher, but I'm going to use a drill attachment for now, and it'll give us pretty good results. So that's what we're doing. We're going to be moving down the grits just to remove the scratches and make the surface shinier and shinier. When you first hit it, it's going to seem duller, and then as you go, because the first one you're correcting the surface, so it's going to seem duller at first, and then as you continuously remove those scratches, it's going to seem shinier and shinier. Whatever grit sandpaper you start with is going to be dependent on your surface. Now these covers kind of came with a factory polish that's clear coated over. I'm going to start with the 600 grit to remove the oxidation on the surface, but if you're starting with the surface that's really bad, you might have to start with 400 grit, or if you're working with a cast part that has that rough cast finish, you may even have to go more aggressive than that. But it's all going to be based on, your start point's going to be based on how the surface is, and then from there you're going to go step by step all the way down to about 2000 grit or even 2500 grit if you want. Now these covers are a pain to work with. In flat surfaces, all these curves and these little areas, so something that comes in handy there is these little attachments that I throw on the Dremel, and these will help you get into these tight little areas. Now you can buy these in a bunch of different grips, or you can do something that I like to do is I just bought a pack of these off Amazon. I'll put the link in the description below, but I bought them all one grip, and what I like to do is these rolls are adhesive backed sandpaper, and I'll actually just roll my sandpaper right over top of these for whatever grit I'm using, and that works out perfect. So you can buy them with whatever grit you want, but for my case this works fine. So the obvious things you're going to need are the sandpapers. Now the not so obvious thing in this case is aircraft remover to remove the factory clear coat that's on the rocker boxes. That skips a whole step of sanding. Trying to sand that clear coat off is unnecessary. You can just use some aircraft remover, get that right off. And most importantly, you're going to need to grab a beer or a coffee, your preference, but this is a long, tedious process, so anything that helps you get through it is what you're going to need. Now, I'm by no means a professional polisher, but this is my method of how I do it, so feel free to leave me any tips, but let's get into it. I don't know if you can see, we got a very good amount of it. There's a little bit still stuck right there. Some little patches here and there. I can either go back and hit this again with more of this. See, this is all good right here except for that little bit. So I can either go back and hit it with more aircraft remover, or just say this is good enough and sand it, but for now I'm just going to let it dry and see how we end up. Now after letting it dry, you can see better, you know, the few spots where it didn't come off, but if you look, it's actually just peeling right off, so I don't think we're gonna have to do another round of this because it's just coming off anyway. So I'm just gonna finish peeling the rest of this off. We'll clean it up with a little mineral spirits and go right to polishing. So it might be hard to tell right here, but so this one I just hit with 800 and this one was done with 600. This one has a little bit more shine than this one. This one's a little duller, but if you can see, there's still some little scratches from the 600 that I didn't get out, so I got to keep going with this one. If you leave those and you skip, you can move on to the next grit. The next grit will not get those out, so you have to get them out now, or else they're going to be there when you polish it all up at the end. So whenever I'm working with the Dremel or any kind of power tool, I like to start with that first. So in this case, I'm hitting all these tight curved areas and stuff. And the reason I do that is because if you ever pop out or ding something you're not supposed to, it's easier to then, because I'm going to then sand the rest of this by hand, I can get it no problem. Where if I sanded this all by hand, got it all nice, if I popped out or anything, you know, like I did right here, I don't know if you can see that, I was doing this right here and it slipped and I hit right there. It's real easy to do that when you're using something that's spinning or rotating. So whenever I'm using the power tool, I like to hit those areas first. That way now I have to sand this area anyway, and I'll get that no problem. But, you know, if I had gotten this all nice and then I popped out, that'd be really frustrating because I'd have to go do it again. So that's just my method. So here we are at 1,000 grit. Or after 1,000 grit, and you can see now it's not looking so much scuffed as it is almost like a brushed finish, but it's starting to look real shiny now. And instead of scratches and swirls, you notice more like fingerprints and stuff. So you can see how we're on the right track. Okay, so now that we got the sanding done, we're gonna go into the polishing rouges, and this is what's really gonna bring out that shine. So now this was part of a kit that I got. You can buy all these rouges individually as well. But your typical ones you're going to use for any kind of, you know, aluminum or anything is you have the black, the brown, and the white. The black being the coarsest and the white being the finest, and it's the same thing as sandpaper. You're going to go from top to bottom. Now, since we just sanded it with up to 2,000, I think I'm going to try to start with the brown. I don't think we need the black. It's usually when it's got some scratches and you're trying to bring a polish back. And we'll go to white. This one does come with the red, and there's also a couple other colors. I forget what they are, but that's typically used for like precious metals and not what we're going to be using on this project. So last time I had used the drill attachment. This is when a bench buffer really comes in handy. So, but fortunately I don't have one of those or room for one at this point. But last time I used the drill with a buffing wheel attachment, and this time I'm going to try to use this pneumatic die grinder. I think it might help a little easier to maneuver rather than the whole drill, but we'll see how it goes. so that pretty much wraps up this. Got this thing polished. It's looking much shinier than it is. It's not a mirror finish like some professionals can really do, but it's much shinier than it was, and that's good enough for me. Scratch that. Not happy with just better than it was. I want to try and get the best finish out of it as possible. I spent way too much time to just have it better than it was. So, went to Harbor Freight, grabbed myself a bench buffer, and hopefully this will be able to give me the results to really bring out that, you know, as close to a mirror finish as I can get. So, even though I said I wasn't going to get one, I got one. So, let's see how this turns out and see if it helps bring out the shine anymore. Here it is, kind of put together. And I know I said I didn't have room for this, and I really don't. I mean, you guys have seen my garage, but I'm going to put it over here. I've got a bench grinder that I use just for sharpening various blades, chisels, lawnmowers, blades, and stuff like that. But I don't use this nearly enough to justify having it out all the time. So I'm going to put that in storage, but I'm going to reuse this base, which is also from Harbor Freight, for the buffer, and that's going to be the buffing thing. At this point, I'm doing a lot more polishing, especially with this Harley, than sharpening things. And if so, I can just swap them out. Not the end of the world. So that's the plan right now. I'm going to put this onto that. So neither the buffer nor the stand came with any bolts for mounting. Luckily, it pays off to have a whole bunch of random bolts laying around. I found 2 that will fit, so we can get this thing mounted down. Okay, so here's that rocker cover I was talking about before. As you can see, it's better than it was, but let's see if we can make this even better with the bench grinder here. Look at this. See the camera in here and everything. Getting so much better results with the bench. That area's not so great. I gotta go back and do that, but this area is pretty good. Super happy with these results. Totally worth going for the bench grinder, even though it wasn't what the route I wanted to go. Definitely worth it. It's gonna give it such a better shine. Alright guys, so that's where I'm going to leave it for this one. I got the one rocker box cover nice and polished to a point where I'm happy with it. Much happier than I was before I got this. So I still got to do the other cover. I got to do this spacer. And I got to do the actual part that holds the rockers. So I got a lot more sanding and polishing to do. But by next video, it'll all be done. Thank you guys so much for watching. Recently, I've seen some, comments come in that were just... The fact that anyone watching these videos is a big deal to me, and to hear such nice comments from some of you guys, I just want to let you guys know I really, really appreciate it. So, I'll try and keep the videos coming at a more regular pace from now on, but thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for the comments. I'll see you guys next time.